All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular City Council meeting, Monday, August 19th, 2024. If you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the moment of silence. First item is covering a public hearing for fiscal year 2024-2025 budgets. Mr. City Manager, if you would please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of Council, it is my pleasure to present to you and to the residents of the City of TKK our proposed FY 2024-2025 budgets. In summary, your general fund are showing revenues of $17,614,132, over expenses of $17,170,450, showing us to the net positive of $443,682. Your Beach and Swim Center is showing we're projecting revenues at $180,747, over expenses of $161,157, to the net good of $19,590. Your utilities, TCUD, we're projecting revenues at $7,635,069, over expenses of $7,482,808, to the net good of $152,261. Stormwater and these remaining funds are basically revenue in, expenses out. So your stormwater, we're projecting at $1,224,000 on revenues and expenditures. For events, $226,700 for revenues and expenditures. And hospitality tax at $418,000 in revenues and expenditures. That gives you a grand total of revenues across all funds of $27,298,648, over expenses of $26,683,115, to the net positive of $615,533 across each of your funds. Breaking down the departments that are located within the general fund, council expenses for the current fiscal year versus expenses over projected for the coming year. And I'll just go down the 24-25 column. We're projecting council expenditures at $73,626. That is a change of approximately $28,252. Court at $335,362, and that is a change of $56,812. Administration at $975,960. That's a change of $48,839. Development services at $753,643 for a change of $16,353. Public Works at $1,176,090, and that is a decrease in to the tune of $80,498. Police Department at $4,684,602 for an increase of $252,622. Fire Department at $3,274,521. That is a change of $359,227. Parks and Recreation at $1,825,375. That is an increase of $500,882. And non-departmental at $4,071,272. That shouldn't be a negative. I apologize. That's a typo, but it's a change of $602,761. So just some things to touch on through the budgets and general fund. Again, I believe for the 15th year, projecting no millage increase and remaining at the 89 mills. As per our discussions during the budget workshops, It does include 2 patrol officers, including their patrol units and equipment, 1 replacement patrol unit, replacing radios for PD, 4 there and 3 for the fire department, replacement of a bucket truck for our public works department, tree removal on Windward where trees were causing root damage that we just patched the road up there. Shoreline stabilization at Windjammer Park. This is, as was discussed previously in the workshops, this would be phase 1 of 2. Playground park improvements, conversion of tennis courts to pickleball courts at our lower courts, and funding that through impact fees. And then deer management, sterilization, and culling. In the beach and swim center, envisioning additional seating and repairs to the pergolas out on the pool deck. TCUD, there is a 4% rate increase, and this is a pass-through that is originating in Rock Hill, but on the sewer side, it comes to us directly from Rock Hill, and on the water side, it's coming to us from Fort Mill. 1 replacement maintenance truck and 1 replacement backhoe. All those, both of those being cash funded through our TCUD budget. In stormwater, it's an increase in fees of $6 per month, taking it up to $204 per ERU. The grapple truck purchase for curbside collection, it doesn't have a budget impact for this year, but with the financing, that would have a budgetary impact beginning in 25-26, financing that for 4 years. And then over $500,000 for projects, repair, replace, maintenance, stormwater projects. In our events, we've got Catawba Fest, Booze and Ghouls, our holiday festival, the Best Damn Food Festival, our summer concerts in June, July, September, July 4th celebration, which also includes that July 4th concert, and our movie night, which we're looking forward to doing here pretty soon since we had to reschedule due to weather earlier this month. And that is your budgets, Mayor and Council, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Yes, sir.
Yes, Charlie, if you could go back to the expense page where it begins with council. It looked like some of those changes in expense might not be calculated right. 71.8 to 73.6 looks like about 2,800, not 28,000.
I'll go back and check those.
That one, the courts and public parks and recs are the 3 that I noticed that looked like they were off.
I'll go back and check those.
Okay.
But your numbers should be correct in what I presented.
I think the expense numbers are right
Yeah.
for the fiscal year, but the change.
I think it was just copying it over from Excel over into the PowerPoint. It may have tweaked something.
Thank you.
Apologies for that.
I did go to school in New Jersey, but
I'm sure you're quite right, sir.
Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, now we can get to some good stuff. Chief Hasty, if you would, please, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Truly is some good stuff. I want to recognize a couple of our citizens tonight. On July the 6th, we had a car fire. It was reported as an entrapment. Person was trapped in the car, and the car was on fire. Prior to our arrival, we had several citizens that intervened on behalf of the person that was in the car. I actually pulled that person to safety and took care of them until we arrived. So tonight, what I'd like to do is I'd like to read this and recognize the gentlemen that are here, as well as one that's not. The first one is Mike Signorelli. In this, all the verbiage is the same for the 3 of them. It's for unselfish giving of oneself in effort to remove another from harm as a result of a car accident and subsequent fire on TUK Drive on the evening of July the 6th. These gentlemen, Michael Signorelli and Glenn Turner, if you would join me up here. The third was Brandon Barnes. Brandon's not with us tonight, but I'd like to bring these gentlemen up and just recognize them publicly for their actions. And Mayor, if you would join me, I would appreciate it as we present. So the first is Michael Signorelli. Thank you so much for everything you did that night. On behalf of the gentleman that was in the car, we appreciate your efforts. And the next one is Glenn Turner. Glenn, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Come up. Take a picture. Front of the line. I do, yes, sir. Good job. Thank you.
Next, we have Chief Crosby, if you would, please, sir.
Mayor, members of council, thank you so much for having us tonight. As you know, DUI collisions and fatalities have a significant impact on a community. So the primary objective of DUI enforcement is to reduce the amount of collisions and fatalities that we have by getting impaired drivers off the roadway. And tonight I'm proud to announce to you that at the South Carolina Department of Public Safety DUI recognition ceremony, not only was the City of TKK Police Department recognized, but also one of our own, Sgt Josh Bowling, was recognized for his efforts. Sgt Bowling last year was hurt for a significant amount of time last year, but he has a true passion for DUI enforcement. It's a really calling of his at his heart that he wants to make sure that people are safe while they're on the roadway. With the injuries that he had last year, he still led the department in DUI enforcements. This year, he continues to lead the department in DUI enforcements. Right now, the agency has 41, which is up 71% from last year. He's also, because of his passion and his hard work, he's been recognized and appointed to be our new traffic sergeant. So he's over our traffic enforcement team to address all the traffic situations and issues that we have within the city of TKK. And also, so Sergeant Bowling was recognized by the South Carolina Department of Public Safety as the Officer of the Year for a department with 11 to 25 officers. And the city of TKK for their DUI enforcement and also traffic enforcement measures was recognized as the Agency of the Year for a department with 11 to 25 officers. So we're very proud of these awards to highlight the efforts of our officers to make our community a safer place. Thank you.
Okay, we can skip over public comments as we have none. And we'll move right into our approval of minutes. Do I have a motion for the approval of the regular city council meeting July 8th, 2024?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to approve the minutes for the regular council meeting, July 8th, 2024.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. For the special city council workshop meeting, July 25th, 2024, do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to approve the special city council workshop meeting minutes for July 25th, 2024.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. For the special city council workshop meeting, July 30th, 2024, do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the special city council workshop meeting on July 30th, 2024.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And that will bring us to our committee reports. Okay. If you would please, sir, Councilmember Hyslip, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Planning Commission met on August 5th. There were no public comments. The main discussion was on the Marina Overlay District, was the only item on the agenda. The commission spent the majority of their time finalizing the Marina Overlay District survey, which was sent out to the public. It's out there now, so if you haven't completed it, please do. And the commission will meet on September 9th next month because of the Labor Day holiday. That's all, sir.
Thank you, sir. And we did not have anything from the EDC, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that will bring us to some unfinished business. It's the second reading of an ordinance amending Appendix D, Ordinance 484 of the city's code as it relates to towing fees. This is second and final reading of an ordinance to update the fees for wrecker/towing services outlined in the city's code. This update is to ensure the services can be acquired and those companies are charging standard rates similar to the surrounding jurisdictions and SC Highway Patrol.
Mr. Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance amending Appendix D, Ordinance 484 of the city's code as it relates to towing fees.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We have some new business. This is an introduction and first reading of fiscal year 2024-2025 budget ordinance. This is the first reading of an ordinance necessary to set the budgets for the fiscal year 2024-2025 that were presented by the city manager during the public hearing. There is no millage increase, including in the coming fiscal year, which makes it the 15th year that we have not increased our millage rates. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance for the FY 2024-2025 budgets.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to thank staff, Bob, Dana, all the department heads for everything you did, all the time you put into it. I know the workshops got a little long. We appreciate you sticking around, giving us all your great insight. And that was it.
You have any further discussion?
Yeah, I want to reiterate that. I mean, the workshops we had were probably a cumulative 10 to 12 hours worth of time of us reviewing the budget, plus time away from council in reviewing them individually. So I have no level of understanding of the amount of time that staff put into that if we only spent 12 hours doing it. But I really appreciate the time and effort that's gone into that from all the department heads and all the staff that contributed. Thank you.
I would also like to say thank you for the fact that one of the things that I had asked for was a review of discretionary spending and where can we find places that we can cut back. And I think that, Charlie, you led that very well. There was I don't have the exact figure in my head as to what was cut, but if you do, I would love for you to be able to share that as a total.
I don't, but I do want to mention, this was a challenging budget, to say the least. Especially given the 11.8% group insurance rate increase that came from the state. To get that to start with and then trying to figure out how we could put everything in that we could put in to still be able to operate the city effectively, safely, and at the level that our residents asked for. It was a challenging department. I appreciate y'all saying so. I'll reiterate it as well. Department heads and our financial team did a fantastic job making this work.
Do you have anything further? Okay. Well, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, a little bit more new business. It's consideration of approving the allocation of golf funds for engineering and design services for improvements to Hole 10, Hole 18, Bulkheads, and the chipping green. At the budget workshop on July 25th, Pinnacle requested council to consider allocating golf funds for engineering and design service costs to improve the multiple areas of the golf course. And also, folks, where this is coming from, the bulkheads that hold the greens up, if you will, on Hole 18 and Hole 10, they're old. They're really old, and they are almost past their life of usefulness. So with that, we need to entertain getting those fixed. Given those two holes are our signature holes, and the golf course is loved by all in TEK. With that, we need to do some work on a golf course, and Pinnacle, our management company, brought it to our attention that we're going to have to do that sooner than later. So with that, they've come up with some good. We've got some good money in that budget to pay for those items, and So this is a consideration just to approve getting some engineering done, getting some drawings and that kind of thing drawn up for us to help us ensure that the golf course maintains its standard and the walls can hold up the greens for years to come. So,
And Mayor, if I may add, this is just for the engineering design. From there, we'll be able to get a anticipated cost to actually do the work, and that will come back to council once that's prepared, assuming that this is approved this evening.
with that, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve allocating $15,000 from the golf course budget for engineering and design services as it relates to improvements to hole 10, hole 18, bulkheads, and the chipping green.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we have some more new business. It's consideration of selecting a design builder for grouting in Cebu Court. In accordance with the city's procurement code, proposals were solicited for design build services to repair stormwater issues on Cebu Court. This item is before council to consider awarding that bid. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to award Dry Pro as a design builder for grouting in Cebu Court in an amount not to exceed $56,500 and authorize the city manager to issue the notice to proceed.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Proceed.
There's a letter from Joel Wood, the engineer, and in it, it specifies that he was recommending additional work to be done prior to this being started. What did he call it? Recommend that vegetation be removed from the slope in order to further evaluate the presence of voids and debris, and that there would be a reevaluation after that. Was that, there's not anything to indicate that it was done or that the reevaluation required this?
It has not been done yet. And that's, basically, it's just because of the nature of where that drain comes off of the street. It's almost like a buried pipe slope drain, where it comes off and then runs around the edge of the property and down to the lake. This is just further investigation as part of the project to see how much more may need to be done. What's before you tonight would be to fix, to get everything ready to actually fix the street portion of that. I guess a better way of saying it is probably, this may not be the end of the Cebu project, but this is the most critical piece of it.
Okay, so what was referred in the letter, it hasn't been done yet, but there's plans to do?
Correct.
Okay.
Charlie, is that part of this $56,500, or will that be a different entry?
Once this portion is done, then it'll be evaluated to see if that next portion that Ms. Miller is referencing is needed and required.
Okay.
So it is not part of this, no, sir.
Okay.
And we don't know what the extent of it will be until this first?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So this very well could be phase one of a multi-phase, but this part is the most critical part up at the street, so that
And-
we can not lose that section of the road. So we
And
want to
this is
get it
one-
dressed up
I'm
first.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
This is one where there was just the one bidder also, right?
Yes, ma'am. And in conversations with our engineer, they are absolutely qualified to do it in his opinion. So,
Okay.
Do we have anything further? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. One more new business is consideration of awarding a bid for Suwarrow Circle stormwater improvements. In accordance with the city's procurement code, bids were solicited for completing street improvements on Suwarrow Circle related to stormwater. This item is before council to consider awarding that bid. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for Suwarrow Circle Stormwater Improvements to Eddie Smith and Sons Paving in an amount not to exceed $373,985.08, and authorize the city manager to issue the notice to proceed.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion. Motion and a second. I will open the floor to you, Councilman Shirley,
Thank
for
you.
further discussion.
Charlie, we had a couple of emails with some questions about this. I just want to clarify, is this money coming from the 23-24 budget?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So the
This,
current
well,
budget-
this budget plus fund balance carried over from prior years.
Got it. Thank you.
That is correct. The prior item, we would line up to have that done the first part of the new fiscal year.
Good. So
the
this is
Cebu
already
court one.
budgeted for.
Correct.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, so both Cebu and Suwarrow are for 23-24, but? no.
Cebu is for 24-25.
Okay,
Saguaro would be for 23-24 for our current fiscal year.
but the actual expenditure for Cebu won't be until that budget is passed?
Correct. It won't be
Okay.
until after October 1st. Correct.
Okay,
And any subsequent repairs, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
okay. For Suwarrow, there were multiple bids on this one.
Correct.
There was one that was lower than the awarded bid, and it
Correct.
had a note that it was disqualified, which it showed.
They do not have a South Carolina contractor's license.
Okay, that's important.
It's not that, oh, that's the other one.
It's the next one.
That's right. That was for the concrete pad where we disqualified one. It wasn't on this
Oh,
one.
okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, you had two bids on this one, Eddie Smith and King Asphalt were the two bids on this one. You had multiple bidders on the,
yeah,
on the
that was
next
about
agenda item.
100,000 more.
And that note for
Okay.
disqualification, they didn't have a South Carolina contractor's license.
Thank you. I got
Yes,
them
ma'am.
mixed up.
Thank you.
I do have a question on the bid process, and I think this one was the one where Joel Woods was managing the bid process. Is that correct? Okay. How is that different than our normal process in managing
The Suwarrow Circle one is a large, very complex project, and that's why we had the engineer involved and got him to write up the specs instead of us just doing simple specs. This is a much more cumbersome project. And we've got sinkholes developing out there that's why we wanted the engineer involved, so that we could have him walk it from start to finish on it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any further discussion? Okay, well, I'd call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. This next item is a consideration of awarding a bid for the Gardendale Road Concrete Pavement Project at Chipping Facility. In accordance with the city's procurement code, bids were solicited for Gardendale Road Concrete Pavement Project. This project will provide an area at the city's wood chipping site to deposit loose leaves and then be hauled away for composting. This item is before council to consider awarding that bid. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to award the bid for the Gardendale Road Concrete Pavement Project at the chipping facility to Eddie Smith and Sons Paving in the amount not to exceed $95,700, and authorize the city manager to issue notice to proceed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'm going to assume we have further discussion.
Yes.
All right.
I would ask Charlie, if you, could you explain what you told me earlier about this instance where I was asking about the pad?
Sure.
It-
Be glad to.
That explained it pretty well.
Be glad to. So when in a previous council meeting, and forgive me, I'm not sure which one, I just remember it being from this past spring, where there was basically through discussion, council directed staff to relocate the composting facility, not do it out at Windhaven, and to look to do it at the chipping facility. So we began that process as immediate as we could, knowing that we've got the impending leaf season right around the corner from us. As our engineers and staff began looking at the available site at our wood chipping facility, it was determined that we couldn't make it large enough and include the water quality things that DHEC would require us to do. to do an actual composting facility, the way we were looking to do at Windhaven. So from there, staff began working very diligently. Tim and his staff, along with Joey, all right, what are the alternate solutions? Because we made the assumption that not doing loose leaf collection was going to be an option. So they looked at, can we put it at the chipping facility and then load it into dumpsters so it could be taken out to York County and hauled away there. And DHEC requires that those dumpsters would have to be on a concrete pad. So Jeremy Hutchison, our crew foreman, went and started having conversations with the town of Fort Mill as to how they do theirs. They run it the exact same way that we've got before you tonight. They have a large concrete pad. Their loose leaf trucks dump on it, and they have a contractor that comes and collects those, I'll say on an as-needed basis, if you will, and then hauls them off-site. I believe he hauls them to Pageland. I'm quite certain he must have a contract with somebody out there. There's a lot of farmland in Pageland if you've never been, so I would imagine somebody is paying him for those on that end. But regardless, he would come and haul them away for us. We're estimating that cost is about $32,000 to $33,000 a year for him to haul it away. As we looked at it on the flip side, to buy the equipment that we would need to buy to do the composting, you're looking at about $600,000 to $650,000 for that piece of equipment to be able to turn it, and that's not including staff time.
Staff time, yeah.
That you've got to take heat temperature measurements and things of that nature, plus the turning of the compost, if you will. So we felt like this was the most cost-effective manner in which to be able to move forward with our loose leaf collection, and it takes any liability away from us on having to maintain and manage a compost facility, which, quite certain, if you want to bring Chief Hasty up, can tell you, those could be a potential fire hazard, which is why you've got to do the daily checks on it and turn them on a constant. So you're looking at about a 20-year ROI, if
Right.
you will, between going this route and spending that money versus buying the equipment and then adding in the staff time and potentially future additional staff headcount down the road as we continue to move towards build out and things of that nature. Yeah, first couple of years, we figured we could probably do it with staff that we have. But as that workload continues to increase, as we've seen over the last few years, we don't anticipate that workload going down. We saw this as a win for the city, and that's why we went about it at this route. And council, apologies, we didn't get into that level of detail with y'all when we pushed this out for bid, but right, wrong, or indifferent, we've never gotten into that level of detail on something like this. But happy to share that and answer any questions. But that's why we went the route that we did, was so that we could continue to offer that, I'll say, much desired service to our residents. Now, if council would like to elect to not do loose leaf collection any longer, you'll have no arguments from staff whatsoever. But I don't think that that's the case, and that's I appreciate Tim and his staff and Joey, the work that they put into trying to find a very cost-effective solution to be able to continue forward with this, while also making that move away from Windhaven. This is a little off subject, but Nick and Dustin have been working with architects, ESP, but landscape architects on potential designs for the Windhaven Park that we hope to bring to you here in the next month or two. So that hasn't fallen by the wayside. They have been working. I know
Nice.
they've gotten a couple of renderings that they've asked for adjustments for, and now I think we're at the point where we're waiting for some cost analysis on that. But again, that doesn't have anything to do with tonight, but since I was talking about Windhaven, just wanted to update you on that real quick. So
Hopefully the
Absolutely.
Windhaven folks are watching the broadcast. They get to
Yeah,
hear that.
definitely.
So anytime that there's cost savings, it's always appreciated, and with this very much so, and I don't think that not providing the service has ever been a question
Yeah.
for our residents. I think that knowing those details is important, because then it's not just an approval without
Understood.
any background. What was done with the leaves because you talk about a process that's required, the turning of the leaves, fire hazards.
For composting,
So
yes, ma'am.
one of the questions that I think we're going to be asked is, we've been doing leaf collection for years and years and years without any of this having been something that was an ask or the expense that we're having to go through in order to satisfy DHEC requirements. So what's different now than what it was before?
So one is we've never had a compost site, all right? So, and there's all kinds of regulations from DHEC. We haven't been composting the leaves. For a couple of years, TKK Baptist Church actually requested the leaves when they had the community garden up off of Gold Hill Road, and we were dumping them there. After a couple of years, they said, we don't want the leaves anymore, and as you can see, the community garden has gone by the wayside. I think the church still owns the property, but they're not doing the community garden anymore. We've been creative with disposal of the leaves over the years, but as we tried, our leaf collection, the volume of leaves has just gotten so enormous. We can't do those things, continuing going forward and it being sustainable, but we've never had a compost site. So that's where all the regulations come in from, and permitting the site to be able to do these things, and be able to handle not just the leaves that we're collecting this coming year, but in years and years to come. So that's why we've gone through this process. That was the initial thought behind doing a composting site, was we can give the compost to the residents, and we can use the compost in some of our landscaped areas and things like that. Completely understand the reasoning for not doing it at that portion of Windhaven and doing it at the chipping site. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind, but now we've got to, if we're going to put leaves there, we have to make sure that we just don't have endless amounts of room there. So we've either got to figure out a way to compost it there, or as we're proposing you tonight, to do the transfer station, and that gets it out of the city. They're taken care of, and it's not occupying space on a constant basis for us.
So two questions, and I'll ask them all at once, so then
Sure.
we can move on. The $95,000 that is being asked for right now, that's for next year's budget.
It's out of this year. We would have to
Okay.
get started immediately because of the size of the pad and the weight of the equipment going on it.
Okay.
That concrete's got to cure for about, I think it's 28 days.
Okay, so there's
so-
enough of that for this year's budget.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
The additional cost of
For the
paying for
hauling?
the contract.
Yes, ma'am. That
to-
is in the coming year's budget.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think that was one of the disconnects also, is that we didn't have any specific discussions about additional contractors that
Gotcha.
were going to be doing
Understood.
that. And that brings me to it's really a request more than a question.
Sure.
Is it possible, when we have new business that is impacting our budget, to have a line that says, this is per this budget, and it's coming out of this
Sure.
already approved
We
budget?
can,
That
we
way
can
we
add
know
that to the cover
exactly.
page. Yep.
Yeah.
Where we've got a fiscal impact when they do have fiscal impacts. We can drill it down to that level of detail. If that's
Just
what
to
council
know
wants.
that
That's no
it's an approved
Sure. Mm-hmm.
expense, or that it's a new expense, but it's still within budget.
Correct. Sure.
That way, I think that takes away some of the conversation or questions that we might have when we don't remember what it's for.
Understood. Not a problem. We can. That's an easy change.
Charlie, thank you for explaining all that to us. I think this has been something we've been talking about for months now, and I know the residents of Windhaven are nice and happy, and we're going to transport it and do the transport of the leaves, and the residents of TKK are going to be happy that the leaves are going to be picked up, because that's a pain point for a lot of people. But it's a happy thing when they go off and
Good
collect
Lord
the
willing,
leaves.
and the creek don't rise, we'll
As
be
long as
picking
they
them
show
up.
up on time, right? But
Yes, sir.
one of the questions over the last couple of months since we got on council, Eddie Smith and Sons has won multiple bids.
Yes, sir.
Over the last, and it's
They do.
it's great. But do they have the capacity to handle all the bids that they've had? Because in this agenda this evening, we already have we're awarding them 2 bids already. One really large project for Suwarrow, and then this one. Do they have the capacity to do all the others, plus these 2, and anything else that they have?
So I've had the fortunate pleasure of working with the Smith boys for a number of years on various projects in the city. They have a asphalt division and a concrete division.
Okay.
They have grown their company. We are probably small potatoes with our projects versus other projects that they're doing around, I'll say, the Charlotte metro area. Knowing them, if they didn't have the capacity to pull it off, they wouldn't bid on it.
Yeah. I want to make sure, because I don't
Yeah.
understand that whole process. I want to make sure I get that question out there.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want
They,
to have any, they need to finish this project before they go to the next one, and then it delays everything for the next year. So
Yes. And there's, much to their chagrin, there's lots of projects that they lose out on, especially some of the bigger road paving, C-Fund projects, things like that. And they win some of them. So they're a great outfit. They do very, very quality work and have for a number of years for the city. They're kind of, point the spear in the right direction, get out of their way and let them go. And they get it done and get it done at a high quality level. So I've been very, very pleased with their quality of work. And I feel quite certain that if they couldn't take on the project, they're not going to bid on it. They're going to tell us, appreciate it, not this go round. So, and they've always been good about, hey, we've got a day or two, in between this one big project and the next big project, we can fit you in and we can jump on it sooner than what we thought we could. So they do a really good job for us.
Just one last question, Charlie, for me.
Yes, sir.
The $600,000 we had budgeted for the composting machine, I'll call it. Mm-hmm. Was that in this year's budget?
No, sir. We haven't budgeted for that.
You haven't budgeted. I was
No,
going to
sir.
ask you, where's that going?
No, sir.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
We did not put that in the budget.
I was hoping we had it in there.
Yeah, that'd be some nice found money, wouldn't it? Unfortunately, no, sir. We did not budget for that in this coming fiscal year.
Just point of reference, Charlie, when we see an expense come over for getting close to $100,000, there's going to be some questions. So I would reiterate Councilman Miller's suggestion for just a little bit of a little reference, little
100%.
explanation.
We'll definitely provide more detail going
That
forward.
said, hats off to you guys for researching what you did to create a much more cohesive process for a lot less long-term expense on what you're doing. So I appreciate you guys going through that.
Credit goes to staff. They did a fantastic job putting this together.
You have any further discussion?
Aye.
Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Which will bring us to a consideration of filling a vacancy on the Economic Development Commission. The city reopened applications for residents to serve on the Economic Development Commission due to a vacancy occurring. This item is being considered to fill that vacancy. Do I have a motion?
We need
You got to get your name first.
Huh?
Your name.
My name?
The applicant name is, your top nominee was Randall Flowers.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I was having a side conversation. You may have said that, and I just completely missed
He
it.
did not.
Don't be having any more side
Apologies.
conversations. We can.
I was looking for a name.
Apologies, that is completely on me. I didn't realize you already had the name, but now we've got it twice.
Okay, we got it. Okay, so now,
Do we need to include that person's name in the nomination or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the nomination for Randall Flowers as presented to fill the vacancy on the Economic Development Commission with the term expiring on March 30th of 2025.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. This is the consideration of approving an agreement with White Buffalo to sterilize 200 deer as is a part of a wildlife management program. During the budget workshops, council discussed approving funding for wildlife management in the coming fiscal year in the amount not to exceed $304,000. This item, if approved by City Council, would authorize White Buffalo to submit the necessary documents and permits to SCDNR on the city's behalf and perform sterilization of up to 200 deer. It is anticipated that the sterilization process will begin sometime in late October to early November. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agreement with White Buffalo and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents as part of the wildlife management program.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
So this is approving 200 deer per the contract that was provided, and I know that I have questions on the number of deer that is being approved versus the cost that we or the budget that we have for it. versus what we don't know yet as to the cost of the sharpshooting, the culling part of it. So I'm curious, is this not taking the cart before the horse a little bit?
So as Dr. DiNicola has stated, I think during his presentation and in subsequent conversations with Joey, the sterilization process most certainly has to happen before the culling process. So the number that we provided to y'all, to City Council during the budget workshop of the 304, also envisions culling of up to 80 deer at a cost of $450 per deer. That portion, while it would be contracted directly with White Buffalo, it would be with Dave Henderson, who's got, I think it's like 30 years of experience in sharpshooting in South Carolina, primarily in the Low Country. There'd be a separate agreement coming before council by your probably September meeting, is what we're shooting for, on the culling process. And that's to allow for culling of up to the DNR limit of 80 deer. So you're looking at a $36,000 expense there. Also, as was outlined by Dr. DiNicola, he feels very confident that he can sterilize 100 deer before the deer start to really change behavior.
How many?
100.
Okay.
He thinks he can sterilize 100 without a problem. The 150, he thinks he can get to that. Once you start getting over 150, it starts to become very, very time consuming and not as easily done as that first 100 because the deer start to change their behavior. So whether or not he's able to get to that 200 will remain to be seen. The same as with Dave Henderson, as council is very well aware. We put a lot of parameters on USDA earlier this year, and under those parameters, they were able to successfully remove 36 deer. Letting Dave Henderson go through, still operating very safely, but giving him a little bit more latitude to be able to go out and get it done. He feels like he can get 80 done. Again, that time will tell whether he's successfully able to do that or not. I believe his time frame in trying to do that would be right on the heels of this, so starting in December, he would start that culling process. Now, if he's able to get the 80 done in December and council wants to allocate additional funds from the operational contingency or what have you to try to go after more, assuming DNR approves an additional 80, then you've still got time in both January and February to do that. But the plan as it stands right now would be for DiNicola, assuming council's approval, would come in October and work October, November on the sterilization process with the goal to try to get 200 deer sterilized. And then on the heels of that, Dave Henderson would come in to do the actual culling of up to 80 deer. And that's in a separate agreement.
Is there a downside to tabling this until we have the contract from Henderson so that we can see what his protocol is and how because we're saying up front that we're willing to spend the money to sterilize 200 deer, but you're saying that may or may not be able to happen. So I'm wondering if we need to rethink the numbers that we're allocating that budget for. I'm good with the budget. Mm-hmm. I'm just questioning whether we need to.
You're kind of up against the wall from a timing standpoint because you don't meet again until mid-September. Dr. DiNicola has us on his schedule to be down here starting in October. He's going to have some fixed costs, whether he gets sterilizes 0 deer or 200 deer. Mm-hmm. He's going to have some fixed costs that are, for travel and stay.
Well, we probably also don't want to lose
mobilization and things like that. Asking him to wait on this on an agreement until your September meeting, that's going to be difficult and still be able to stay on any type of timeline where we have it right now. We do have the agreement to where the cost comes down if he's at 150 or less. It's not as much money, and he's good with that because after legal review, we sent it back to him, and for the most part, he was fine with it. There was a couple little tweaks in there regarding the indemnification part. When he came back, we let your attorney. We had a discussion with your attorney, and we're fine with his reasoning and why he was wanting to put. basically he wasn't going to be liable for things that he wasn't involved with. Right. So in a nutshell, he was like, I worded it this way because I don't want to be responsible for things that are out of my control and I'm not involved with, which we felt was understandable. But as far as the pricing goes, we adjusted it down to where you get that prorated pricing if he only gets 100, right? If he only gets 125, something, it's gonna come in at a lower price. Through our conversations with DNR, they're not going to give you that additional 80 deer tags on top of the 80 until we get 80.
Right.
They gave us 160 last year, and we got 36. And it's our understanding that their board was less than pleased that they gave us that they went over the 80 and we didn't even get the first 80. So that's neither here nor there at this point, but I do understand their reasoning. Mm-hmm. I think if we're successful in the sterilization, we're successful in the culling and the time frame that the contractors are telling us, you do have that opportunity. If you have the appetite, I think you have the opportunity to go back in early January before the board, request the additional 80. And at that point, Council, I may be off base here, but if we're able to sterilize 200 deer and cull 160, I don't think we're going to have a deer problem anymore. That's just me talking, but that's a lot. That's a lot of deer to be handling. So
I think none of us have the appetite to have a repeat of what
Correct.
happened at the beginning of this year, and I think that's where my concern is. If Denicola is saying, I'm confident of 100. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking 150 is doable. Why are we putting 200 in there and tying up that money to where it's kind of doing the same thing that we did with the deer. We're extending that number above what he's telling us he can reasonably say, yes, I can do this. Why are we putting that extra 50 in there or that extra 75 in there?
Can I comment on that?
You're not going to get that price break until you're below the 150 mark. He feels good up to 150, and he thinks he might could get to 200. Right. I don't. It just gets a lot more difficult. So he's got to cover those unknowns with those fixed prices. So I mean, our thought was, based on prior conversations and listening to council, it was our understanding that council wanted to sterilize as many as we could and cull as many as we could, and that's what we've brought forward to y'all.
Well,
if you want a lesser
amount,
then we
definitely agree with you that it's just that the sterilizing portion of it is significantly more expensive.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah.
And we're basically saying that whether you do 150 or you go up to 200, we're still going to pay you the same, right? Mm-hmm. And we're only going to make up a difference if it's below 150.
Correct.
That's what the agreement says.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part that I'm struggling with, that we are committing funds for a number that may not happen, in the same way that we committed funds for a number that we didn't get to before. And then if we don't get to that and we have an opportunity we get to the 80 deer, we have an opportunity to add additional deer to the sharpshooting, then we have to go into different funds to make that happen, because we've already spent the money up front with the 200 deer. We only got 151.
You're assuming that DNR will give you the extra 80? That we don't know at this point?
We're making a lot of assumptions. I'm trying to make the least expensive ones.
I understand. I mean,
yeah, the second, if I may, the second permit for 80, an additional 80 deer is not guaranteed.
correct.
It's assumed to some of us, but it's not guaranteed. And hey, listen, I've been pretty open about this. I would rather see us get the 180, cull the 180 first, and then sterilize after that, because the bigger need in my mind is reducing the population immediately, not reducing the population long-term. So if I had my way, that's how I would do it, but I know that pushes us back another year on sterilization, and I don't want to do that. So I'm supporting the process. And if we do get 200 deer, right, I don't think we're going to be mad about that. I mean, meaning if we sterilize 200 deer, if Denicola can sterilize 200, I don't think anybody's going to be upset about that. If we get 100, I'll probably be a little disappointed, but I'll be okay with it as long as we can move forward with eliminating a large number of deer, 80, maybe 160, as we get into the colder months when it's more practical to do that. So for the public's knowledge, the reason we're doing it in the order we are is because during the culling process, we want the temperatures lower so the meat doesn't spoil. We can give that meat, we can donate that meat appropriately someplace where it needs to go, and that processing of the deer that are culled is more successful that way. And we give it a little space in between sterilization and the culling process. Man, I feel like in 4 or 5 days, I could probably walk up on 200 deer, so I think Dina Cola is going to be pretty successful. I really do.
One would think,
Yeah.
exactly what you said. But, once the deer start changing behavior, I mean, just with even shooting 36 this past year, personally, I started noticing less deer around the area.
Right.
Not saying that they left, but they just weren't as visible. Now, over the last month, they've become more prevalent.
Sure.
Right? And I'm not trying to say that I'm speaking for every single lot
Yeah, babies
and
are
area
feeding now,
in the
too.
city. But just traveling around the city, just in my neighborhood and things like that, just didn't see the same numbers what I did before we were culling, right? So deer are definitely going to change their behavior. That's why he wants to sterilize first, where he can be as successful as he can. Then you've got kind of a calm down period for a few weeks, and then let the culling begin.
To Councilwoman Miller's comment, I would say this, Carmen, just as maybe an added piece of feedback for your concerns. If Dr. Di Nicola only gets 150 and we get a price break and we have more resources available to request an additional permit on culling, we get the 80, like if, right? And then if we can get an additional 80 and we have the funds for it, so be it. If Dr. Di Nicola can sterilize 200 and we were able to cull 80 and we request another permit, we do have to come up with funds from someplace else because we'll exceeded what we budgeted for. I'm not going to have a problem approving an additional $36,000 out of either general fund or reserves or something that makes sense for us to go after the additional group of deer. Just respectfully, I'd be okay doing that.
Okay.
Charlie, how much money did we not pay out this year
That we budgeted?
for the deer?
Bob, do you know?
I think it was some.
I think you're around
70,000?
70, 80,000
So
remaining.
we've still got that in the general fund.
Well, this year.
For that,
Now,
for
come
this year.
September 30th, that's in your reserves. For general.
So it would still be
I
there.
think we budgeted like $180,000.
160.
Didn't we?
Yep,
160.
Yes, sir, for this current fiscal year.
And we
yes, sir.
spent what?
You spent about 50% of it.
Yeah, okay.
So will there be coordination, because this whole conversation started with the, with the burden of the impact of an overpopulation of deer. And then after that survey that we did, we were able to identify very specific areas where there was more of an impact than others. We're going to do the sterilization first, where Dr. DeNicola is going to come in and he's going to find 200 deer to tag and sterilize. And then we're going to have Mr. Henderson come in to start a culling process. So his process will have to be to avoid tagged deer in doing that. Most of the deer are, like I said, or we've identified areas where most of the deer are in heavier populations. So is there going to be a coordination where those heavier populations are going to be more prone to have the culling happen so that burden can be relieved? Or are we going to be paying $260,000 in order to maintain that for those residents at the level that they're having to go through now in how the deer is affecting them for the next 5 to 10 years, because now they are basically protected in that they've been sterilized and they're going to just be there for the next 5 to 10 years.
So I can tell you that Dr. DeNicola and Mr. Henderson came up here together, did a site visit right around town, identified areas. So while they're not performing the same service, they are in communication with one another, and we can absolutely bring that concern forth to them as we proceed forward, along with Mr. Henderson's plan on the culling side of things whenever we bring you the agreement there. But we can, I think it's a valid concern. If this is where the bulk of our deer population is that needs to be reduced and not just sterilized, it probably makes more sense, so long as it can be done safely.
I think we
to-
would
to
have a
do it
lot
there,
of
but, yeah.
residents that are very upset that the reduction of the issue didn't happen, but yet we still have the same number of deer that are now there to live out the rest of their lives with the same impact that they complained about to begin
Understood.
with.
I will offer this. I completely agree with you. And you and I have talked about this offline. We want an impact on reducing the population. And we've talked about that pretty consistently. However, I will say this, even if they sterilize a large group of deer in the populated areas where there's the most nuisance, there will be a reduction in property damage because those deer are not going to be having babies anymore. So their eating habits are going to change. The amount of food that they're going to require as they're having babies is going to be reduced too. So I think we actually will see maybe a less measured positive impact, but I think there'll be a positive impact there for us, Carmen.
I just want to be able to know that all of these points were taken into consideration as the plan that these two entities now are going to have, that we have measurable results at the end of it for the money that's being spent. And, the reduction is important, but so is the impact long-term. The sterilization is important.
Understood.
There just has to be a written, thought-out plan of how this is all going to work together so that we know that we're going to, at the end of it, look back and say, we didn't have a repeat.
And assuming council moves forward with this agreement, I know that Joey will be engaging on a more frequent basis with both Dr. DiNicola and Dave Henderson and getting those plans spelled out to where we can share that with council.
Do we
for certain?
have an idea on when Mr. Henderson might have a calling plan or a draft, or is he going to present it to us?
It'll be our goal to have that in front of y'all by your September meeting.
September. We have nothing from him yet, though.
Just a price standpoint at this point, and we know what areas him and Dr. DiNicola went out and looked at and physically observed here in the city. As far as this would be a good place to do this, their operation side of things. But as far as details into his operation, we don't have that at this point in time. But we can certainly start getting that information
Just
for you. And
two follow-up
and providing
questions on that.
to you.
The $450 price tag, that includes processing, transportation. Does that include everything?
Does that include processing? $450 per deal? Yeah, that's the total cost.
That was
per
all
deer.
in, I think,
It is.
right? Yeah.
But it doesn't include any staff overtime charges,
Correct.
whatever there may be.
Correct. And we're not envisioning going
As
about
much.
it the same way as what we
Okay.
did this last go-round. Correct.
And then just one other thing for Dr. DiNicola, as far as the 150 and 200 numbers, would it be possible to talk to him probably in advance, but during the process, if he gets to 100, starts slowing down, he realizes this is slowing down, will he stop at 149? So we don't have to pay that extra $60,000
I mean, that's a lot.
to
for
get
the
one more deer?
Yeah.
We by all means will be in constant communication with Dr. DiNicola throughout the entire process. No doubt. Point taken.
One of the other, so 151 to 200 is roughly, it's like 269,000. If we did 150 on his calculations, it's roughly about 200,000 even. Will he have a caveat in there where it'll be like anywhere from 100 deer to 149? There would be? Okay.
All right, good. Charlie, last question for me. The 304,000 that we're talking about tonight, that includes the estimates from Henderson and DiNicola, is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Assuming that they hit their targets, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have any further discussion?
We beat that deer down, didn't we? Beat that horse down.
I think so. Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, council, for great questions and discussion.
And that'll bring us to our city manager's report. If you would, please, Mr. Funderburk, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. On development services, we have extended an offer for a new building official. The anticipated start date is September the 16th. Our previous building official did a fantastic job for us, but left us for the private sector, and a very, very nice job. So we're happy for him and congratulate him on that. But looking forward to having our new building official start with us later next month. And it is a resident of TKK, so also excited about that. As we've mentioned to council, we are still waiting the early grading plans on Main Street. They're doing some revisions on the western side based on the success that they've seen from the bowl in Ballantyne. So doing some design changes there that require a little bit more engineering. We've already gotten the first submittal on the Lakewood subdivision, have provided comments back and are waiting for the resubmittal there. So that, can get started. As Councilman Hyslip mentioned earlier, the Marina Overlay District Survey is out from the Planning Commission. Last I checked with Nick, we had over 500 responses already on that. It may even be approaching 600 at this point. So if you haven't taken it yet, please jump online and do so. And since our last meeting, we've issued 65 zoning permits, 66 building permits, and 5 new house permits. In our TCUD, we're down 2 members there, but we've got 2 offers out with anticipated start dates of September 23rd to get us full staff back there. They did successfully complete the hydrant replacement project over on Riley Lane. The generator at the sewer lift station on Seven Coves has been relocated, so much needed and successful project there. And the developer, Taylor Morrison, is just about done with all their startups and inspections for the new lift station in River Falls. Once those are completed, we'll be able to move forward with the second round of plats in that, so they can get going. Yeah, when you look at River Falls on a map, it doesn't look that big, and then when you drive in there, it goes back for a while. So Taylor Morrison's excited to continue rocking and rolling there, but they had to slow down just a little bit because of the lift station, but now that it looks like they're near the end of that, they'll be able to pick up that pace. Public Works, we still have 1 open position there, actively recruiting, trying to get that filled. Crews are finishing up the storm cleanups from several storms we had in July, getting close to getting that done. And they've also been working on some of our stormwater detention maintenance projects. You may have seen them on Hubert Graham Way and things like that, working on those. Phase 7 of 9 of our street signage replacement that's been going on the entire fiscal year is still underway, and we're looking to be able to still complete all of that by end of September. Comporium is continuing installations in Winsong Bay and at the Golf Clubhouse. Google is continuing installations in Lake Ridge, River Lake, Lake Shore, and Cameron Creek areas. And we are still finalizing the permit, required permit from what is now called SCDES, used to be SCDHEC. This is the Department of Environmental Services, since they split out on the leaf transfer station. So our engineer is helping us with that permitting process. We don't foresee any issues in getting that completed, so in time for leaf season. Parks and Rec is currently interviewing to fill 2 open positions. And with youth sports starting up, no time like the present. So we're hoping to get those filled, hopefully by middle of next month, end of next month, have those 2 new team members added. Our recreation numbers, we've wrapped up all of our registration. If you've been past any of the ball fields, whatnot, you've seen a slew of activity there. We're at about 2,400 youth participants this fall. In addition to that, we've got our men's and women's softball programs and our adult kickball league all full. So, still, and Walker did let me know this morning that our soccer enrollment is actually up higher than it's ever been. So it still continues to plug along there. We had our last concert at Rundy for the year this past weekend. It was a little hot, a little humid. So it was a little warm to be enjoying the outside activities this past Saturday. But thank you to the vendors and the folks that did come up. Our last summer concert for the year is September the 14th, and that one will be out at Catawba Park. And Caroline is already taking on applications for Catawba Fest vendors. Just go to our website. Catawba Fest will be on October the 12th at Catawba Park. So mark your calendars for that. And if you're like me and you're headed out, or I know the mayor heads out very early in the morning, or if you're driving down TK Drive late at night, you have seen our new walking trail lights. They should finish that final leg, which is the area above the tennis courts and behind the maintenance shop, going down towards the number 1 green. Should finish that up this week. But they look fantastic. I think they've done a great job there, and hopefully our early morning walkers and runners are enjoying and being able to see the pathway a little bit better than what they could. So great job there by Dustin and Tim getting all that coordinated. Fire department will be fully staffed as of August 26th. So excited for them to get that last position filled and get that person in. I know at least Ms. Miller, maybe some of you others attended the last public safety meeting. Folks, if you want to know what's happening in the community from a public safety standpoint, these are great quarterly meetings that both Chief Hasty and Chief Crosby put together with a lot of good information as far as stats and things like that. Highly encourage you to just take a beat. I think they last for about an hour to come out. It's a lot of really good information, but they did that last week, and they'll have another one coming up next quarter. Another initiative from our fire department, I'm really, really excited about this. They've gotten several of their folks certified as first aid CPR instructors. And over the coming weeks, over the next 2 weeks, they are actually going to be certifying members of our Public Works, Parks and Rec, and utility maintenance staff in first aid CPR. Those folks, as much as, and sometimes maybe even more, are out around the public a lot. So having those, getting some of our staff certified in those things, I'm really, really excited about that, and glad we're able to do it in-house with our fire department. So we'll have that coming up over the next 2 weeks with our staff. Police department, we've got one open budgeted position that'll be filled on September the 16th. One open position in law enforcement, and it will be filled in September 16th. I don't think there's an agency around us that can say that. And that credit definitely goes to Chief Crosby and his team and the culture that he's been able to build over there at the police department. And we got notification from the state that they've gone ahead and opened up the last remaining grant position for SRO. So we'll be working to try to get that position filled as soon as we can. Hopefully it'll be before the end of the first semester, but it just depends. And that SRO would go over to the Gold Hill Elementary School. And IT, as was budgeted for with some new servers, Janet is working diligently with our folks at CCP, which is an IT contractor that we use, to get those new servers set up and get those running. And Mr. Hyslip can probably attest that is not an easy process, but they're working diligently to get those up and running to where we don't have any lag time and downtime. So, Mr. Mayor and Council, that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Funderburk.
And we will email these to you tomorrow. Casey will send those out like she has in the past.
Thank you, sir. And with that will be, we need to cover to a
Council comments.
council comments. Council comments. And as always, let's start off with Mr. Carter, if you would, please, sir.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank all the residents that are here this evening and everybody that's watching online and those special guests that have come from out of state to come watch our meeting. Thank you and welcome. Want to thank again our residents that were recognized this evening for the Life Saving Award recipients, Michael, Glenn, and Brandon. Thank you guys so much. That is an amazing thing that you guys did. Our residents in TKK are pretty great. Want to say congratulations again to Sgt Bowling for the DUI enforcement and the award that he got from the state. Appreciate that. That's an awesome thing that you got as well. Want to thank the Charlie Funderburk, your department heads, and all of city staff for everything that you guys do for the city to keep everything running smoothly as you normally and consistently do. The team, everybody that worked on the budget, whoa, that was a long process, like Scott said earlier. Hours and hours and hours went behind that, and I can only imagine how many hours went into it in the departments, trying to focus on that kind of stuff, and then answering all the questions that we had. So thank you for everybody that worked on that. Next, I'd like to say thank you to council. we're at the point where we're at sterilization for the deer. That's one of those things where we have one of those things that the cities, they said that they want something done. We're doing something. Sterilization is something that we didn't do last year, but we're moving forward doing this year. So I want to say thank you to council for doing that. It's very expensive, but the residents have spoken. That's what they want. I know there's another component that's coming to that, but thank you for the sterilization. Okay. Trail lights. That was the last thing I was going to say. Like, I've heard from so many residents about those trail lights. It's great. Moving forward the next couple of months, it's going to start getting dark earlier, and I've watched a couple of kids go from the neighborhoods and they're walking to school. Those trail lights are really going to be beneficial for them to provide safe passage for them to go to school while they're riding their bikes, scooters, walking, all that kind of stuff. So with that, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Carter. Councilman Hyslip, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start off with the city staff. All these storms we had, everyone pulled together, did a great job cleaning that up. I know that was a lot of work. I had half of one tree in my yard I had to clean up, and that was no fun at all, so I can't imagine what cleaning up hundreds of them was like. So thank you for going the extra mile. City's looking great, as always. I just reiterate again, staff, the budget work you did, thank you so much to everyone that was involved in that. First responders, police, fire, thank you for all you do. Our city lost a good resident this month, unfortunately. I know you guys were out there, doing everything you can to find him. Unfortunately, we weren't able to save him, but I know you guys were doing everything you could. I really appreciate that. The life-saving awards from the other residents who stepped up and pulled that gentleman out of the fire in the car. Great job. Thank you so much for that. And that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Hyslop. Councilman Shirley, if you would, please, sir.
Yes, so thanks, Tom, for mentioning the Collette family. Our hearts and our prayers go out to the Collette family as they're going to have a memorial service tomorrow for Mr. Collette. We're thinking of you, and you're in our hearts. Tom mentioned the storm cleanup. It was pretty significant 2 Thursdays ago, about a week and a half ago. That storm ripped through TKK and several other areas. Some folks were really impacted by that. I had about 100-foot sugar maple fall down in my backyard and took about that much off of my deck. So I'm going to call that a win. Thank you, Mayor, for the use of your chainsaw. That was super handy. That was a very interesting cleanup. Special guest in the audience I want to recognize. Came all the way down here from New Jersey to visit me and help me clean up the tree in my backyard. Is my dad sitting out here, Bob Shirley, almost 89 years young, out there in the backyard. I'm firing up a chainsaw, getting ready to clean the tree up. I turn around and he's standing behind me. I was like, "What are you going to do?" He says, "I'm helping." Okay, let's go. Glad to have you with us, Dad. A lot of trees down in the neighborhood. A lot of the parks were impacted. The events that we had this past weekend with the concert, the work that our first responders do every day, and the impact that they had a couple of weeks ago with the missing person, the beautiful golf course that we have. I mention all of those things because I want to say this. The residents that are here and the residents that are watching, and even those that are not, what we're doing here is for you because you're really our customers when it comes right down to it, the residents of TKK. And you enjoy a really special place that we get to live in South Carolina that is really well supported by a council that loves to do what we do, a group of staff that love to do what they do, and they take great care of our city. And I'm really proud to call this place home and to drive in here every day from work or from wherever I'm coming from. It's just a beautiful place, and I'm just really glad to be able to share it with my family and my friends when they come in. Staff, you do sometimes a thankless job, and I want to say thank you because you do a great job, and I really appreciate it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councilman Shirley. Mrs. Mayor Pro Temp, if you would, please.
Thank you very much. I'm always glad when our meetings are over, but then I go home and I think about all the good things that we're accomplishing together, and that's the time that we're spending in really digging in and making things better. It's very rewarding. So I would like to thank all of you guys for for being present and working at making those changes and working forward to make things more positive. The public safety meetings, Charlie brought that up. It is such a good opportunity to really connect with both the police chief and our fire chief to understand what's happening in our community and how they're affecting it and how what we do can affect others as well. So please attend those. It's once a quarter. They move them around so that it's closer to different areas of the city, and it's definitely worth the time. The PD and the Antigua Cay city apps. If you want to know what's happening, please get that app. It's great for all of the storms that have come up. My phone goes off at least twice anytime that there's a possibility of a storm. So it's really hard to say I didn't know it was coming. If you want to know if we have lost pets or lost children or lost adults, get the app. If you want to know if we have bears and cows and other steers
Lions and tigers and
that are
bears,
that are running around, get the app. You won't miss a thing.
So true.
It really is. It really is so easy and so informative.
Right.
One of the things that I had the privilege of doing last week was I sat down with Nick and Tara from our planning department. And they ran me through what's coming for the new software that we're getting for permits. They ran me through what their day-to-day is in how they work with our residents. And that's probably an area where I've heard from residents saying there's a bottleneck. Know that they are trying, know that they care, know that they want to make this right, and being able to have that time to spend with them, to hear from them what their process is and where their bottlenecks are and how this new program is going to help them was really, really insightful. So one of the things that I'm making a commitment is that I want to learn more about where the departments are and what their bottlenecks are so that I can really understand what your process is. It's easy to say, I don't know why this is not working and it needs to be fixed, but sometimes if you go into it and you ask all the questions, you can understand it better and understand what the process is and be able to have those conversations with the public from a different place, right? So if any of you guys that are here would like to have me come sit with you and tell me what your process is of the places that you're trying to improve, I would definitely love to know that. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor Pro Tem. And that brings it to me. First off, I'd like to thank our city staff, our PD, fire department. You guys, excellent job. Our city staff, we've been hit by 2 major storms in the past month, and these guys just keep on ticking. We had that huge pine tree that fell in front of the golf course. They're just out on it. They got to it and made short work of it. Hats off to those guys. They're incredible. Nothing short of incredible. I'd like to thank you, Charlie, for the job you're doing with this budget season. All of our department heads for the incredible amount of work that went into that budget. Thank you for what you did, and I believe our city will be better because of it. Joey, thank you for the work that you're doing, and especially when Charlie goes out of town and we have storms like we had when Charlie goes out of town. Appreciate that. Yeah, you can count on it. You can count on it. Like when I wash my truck, I know it's going to rain. So you guys are welcome for the watering of your gardens because when I wash my truck, it rains. I also like to thank you, Mr. Shirley, for coming in and sitting with us tonight. Appreciate you. And if your dad was anything like mine, he had to tell you how wrong you were doing it.
Oh, he will.
Okay. I just want to make sure. But
That's right.
But no, really appreciate that. Bob's not here with us, but all the work that Bob did for us on that budget, we really appreciate that. And just want to say, folks, it's school time, so please keep your speed down, keep an eye out, and keep your head on a swivel. Our children are blessed in that they get to walk and they get to ride their bikes and scooters and whatnots to school. Part of the method behind the madness of the lighting of the trail was to be able to see those kids while they're going to school before the sun rises, and also other folks that are walking and biking and running, and to make it safer on that trail. So please pay attention to these kids. It's that time of year again, and I would like to also say it is going to be time of year again for the Beer, Bourbon, and Barbecue Festival. So we are, if you would like to participate and you would like to come and cook and compete, please email me and let me know that you would like to do that. We're looking to kick that off somewhere around October the 19th. So if you would, please get with me, and we're going to have a great time. It's going to be a beautiful event, as it always is, and I think this year the folks that we're going to be going with is going to be the Veterans Association that will be receiving the charitable donations from said event. So please come out and support us. We always have a great time. Also going to have cornhole tournaments, and we'll have our barbecue trophy as every year that somehow seems to elude me every year. I don't know how that is.
If you keep
I
your
think
brisket
that-
off the ground, maybe you might win.
I think so. Scott Meehan said that was absolutely fantastic, so I
was,
believe it. But once again, just wanted to thank all the council for being here tonight. Thank you for your hard work and your dedication to what we're doing. And just know we are making a difference. And every day that the good Lord blesses you to put your feet on the ground, you've got a chance to make a difference. So make every day count. Would like to extend condolences, thoughts, and prayers to the Collette family. That was a tragic thing that happened, and just know that you're in our thoughts and prayers. And if there's anything that we can do, please reach out to us and let us know. But as far as that goes, I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, members of council will make a motion to go into executive session.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session. Thanks, folks.